Hello, and welcome back to my channel, or more likely, if you're new, then welcome. My name is Kara, and the last video I posted was about 11 months ago, and I feel I need to just very quickly apologize for the delay in posting, and also address the fact that I'm kind of embarrassed that my last video was setting out all of my goals for 2023, and then I never provided a single update. So I'm going to provide all the updates today. I'll just sort of gloss over what this past few months have been for me, sort of use it as an excuse as to why I wasn't really filming, and then just sort of round out the video with where I see the channel going and what my aspirations are. So, January 2023, my business partner, or I should say my former business partner, and I parted ways, and I teamed up with a new business partner. He and I own a law firm together. We do have associate lawyers, we have staff. And so January, February, March, it was really this transition period, which was equal parts exciting and overwhelming. It was trying to figure out our new roles with each other. I had only ever worked with my other partner in this capacity, so I was taking on activities and duties that I wasn't particularly comfortable with, that had fallen under her umbrella, and just trying to just make it work, basically. And we went through a hiring process as well, where we hired 2 new lawyers for our firm. And so, like I said, it was very exciting, but very overwhelming, very nerve-wracking. But I'm happy to say it's been 11 months of this new partnership, and I couldn't be happier. He and I work really well together. We make decisions really well together. And so I'm really pleased with that. I'm really happy with where the direction of our actual business is going. The work itself has been very draining. So I said I own a law firm. It is specific to family law. That is all we do. So it's basically all divorce all the time. I do take on some marriage contract kind of work, but predominantly it is separation and divorce, and with that comes a lot of emotion and a lot of stress. And throughout the spring of 2023, I was crumbling mentally, emotionally. I was just completely burned out. I was barely holding it together. The burnout was a long time coming. I have been sort of riding that wave. It comes and goes, but this year the bottom fell out, and I was having a very, very difficult time. I started retreating from other friends. I wasn't reaching out to people. I was basically just sort of cocooning and turtling within myself. I did eventually manage to pull myself out of that, but it was a very long process, and it did lead to ultimately a hospitalization. In June of 2023, I was in the midst of this burnout mental health situation, shall we say, but I was also noticing that my physical health, which had been on a decline for several months leading up to this, was bottoming out to the point where I would exercise and then my heart would be sore for a day or two after. I would be trying to run and very dizzy. I would stand up from the couch and I would faint just because of the lightheadedness. I had all sorts of other issues as well. My hair was starting to fall out. My nails were very, very flaky to the point where they became so thin that they hurt. The corners of my mouth were constantly cracked. I knew something was wrong. So I managed to get a requisition for blood work. I had that done, and the very next day when the results were released to the doctor called and emailed me by like 10 o'clock in the morning. And when I was able to connect with him, he basically said, you need to get to the ER. You need to tell them this is what your hemoglobin level is, and you need to tell them that I am suggesting that you get a blood transfusion. So off to the hospital I went. And I went through the triage nurse at the ER, and she said, okay, well, what was your hemoglobin level? And I said 78, and her eyebrows went up into her forehead. Keeping in mind, I don't really have any idea what a normal hemoglobin level is, but apparently 78 is in the quote-unquote toilet, or the danger zone, as the ER doctor actually referred to it. So, fast forward. I have extremely low hemoglobin, I have extremely low iron, and therefore I was severely anemic, dangerously so. And in fact, because my symptoms had been going on for so long, the ER doctor was like, I can't give you a blood transfusion because it's going to create too many problems. It's going to overload your system because basically my body was used to working with very little oxygen in it. So we did an IV iron infusion, and then I got sent to a hematologist later on in the summer. And then in October of this year, I went for 3 weekly IV iron infusions. And now, middle of November, I feel fantastic. I feel wonderful. It is amazing what it is like to have some actual hemoglobin in your body. So I do have another appointment with my hematologist coming up. We will establish a plan for going forward, but I rather suspect that these IV infusions are going to play a regular role in my life. But let's go back to the summer, because I was not about to let anemia stop me from trying to achieve my athletic goals. So in July, I did participate in a sprint distance triathlon. I DNF'd. I've never DNF'd an event before, but this one I just was unable to do it. So I did the swim. I felt fantastic in the swim. That was a big goal of mine this year, was to just overcome my fear of open water swimming and really get rid of all the panic that I was experiencing. I worked long and hard on that, and I was very, very pleased that in this triathlon, I had no issues whatsoever. It was a river swim. I loved it. It was fantastic. The bike basically broke my spirit. I had a very difficult time on it. It was very, very hilly. I had to stop several times. I walked my bike up a lot of the hills, in fact, most of the hills. I was the very last one on the course, and in fact, I was so slow that they had started to dismantle the bike course by the time I got back in. And what's more, although I'd had that one IV infusion, I was still just not up to where I needed to be. And I was incredibly dizzy. I was coughing and retching, and I knew that there was no way I was going to be able to complete a 5K run, even if it was on the flat, but this course happened to be very hilly. So I DNF'd. The golden nugget for me in that is that it really sort of honed in the importance of the training as well. So I did kick up my efforts in that regard, although running was still just so incredibly difficult. So then we move into August, in which I completed a 100-kilometer charity bike ride. It was, well, there was a virtual option and then there was an actual in-person option. I had initially planned to attend the in-person option, but that event date was the same date as my 6-year-old son's very first triathlon. So ultimately I decided to do it virtually, and I'm actually very pleased with that decision because it poured rain. They had to delay the event. Ultimately they were able to hold it, but I'm very glad that I didn't have to cycle 100 kilometers in pouring rain. I am not a confident cyclist, and that the thought of that just terrifies me. So I did it on my indoor trainer. Check the box, it is done. It took me a little bit under 5 hours to do it. I actually felt really good, but I don't think it's going to become a regular occurrence for me. Then towards the end of August, I had the shirt that we have here, the Wasaga Beach Triathlon. I did the sprint distance again, and here's where all the effort with the open water swimming really paid off, because the lake that day was incredibly choppy. In fact, it was so bad that the race event organizers did give us the option to switch to the duathlon if we wanted to avoid having to do the swim. But I wanted to do the swim. So out I went, and it was a rather scary experience. I mean, not only was it incredibly wavy, which just made it very difficult for breathing purposes and sighting purposes, but also I could literally hear other participants yelling for help and the motorized boats coming to pick them up. There were people holding onto the side of kayaks and being towed in, and it was very just sort of like upsetting to hear that. Like, I knew that there was plenty of rescue service around, but just hearing people yelling for help while you're out in the water was just a very disconcerting experience. And the biggest thing about it was that I did not experience any panic despite all of that going on. And in fact, after that event, I signed up for a 2.5 kilometer open water swim race. Not a triathlon, just a dedicated swim race, which I did in September. And ultimately, I surprised myself. I came in 10th place out of 14 women, But again, ultimately, the whole victory for me was the fact that I just felt good. I set a PB for myself by something like 3 minutes. I smashed any expectations that I had for myself. I was honestly hoping to get it done in an hour, and I got it finished in 53 minutes. So I was incredibly proud of myself, and it has left me wanting more. I was taking some swimming lessons. I've kind of put that on hold for right now, but I will be picking that back up in the spring because I definitely want to do more open water swimming. Right now, though, I've been doing a lot of running. So leading up to the Wasaga Beach Triathlon in August, my hip started to really bother me when I was running. It was something that I experienced last year. I found it debilitating last year. I would be limping and hobbling for days. It was just extremely painful and I couldn't find any relief from it. Fast forward to this year, I was starting to experience that same kind of pain, not to the same degree, but enough to make me very, very nervous. And after the Wasaga Beach Triathlon, I just shut it down and I stopped running. But I did start going to physio, and it has been a game changer. So he focuses a lot on doing dry needling. He has given me exercises to do, and I am diligent about them because for whatever reason now, I love running. I don't know, running doesn't love me. It was certainly kicking my ass all summer, and then it just all kind of fell into place. And now I've done quite a few 5K events. I have 2 more on the calendar coming up before the end of the year. I met a friend at my daughter's swimming lessons, actually. We just got chatting in the stands, and now we just arrange all of our kids' activities so that we can go together, and she's become such a good friend, and I'm so happy and so grateful that our paths crossed. But she's also an exercise buddy of mine. We do the 5Ks together. We just keep each other at the same pace, and just, it's so much fun doing it together. And now I have my sights on a 10K. So I am actively training for that. My longest run that I've completed was just a few days ago at 6.6 kilometers. My speed has increased. My hip, it still bothers me from time to time, but going to see the physio and doing those exercises has made a world of difference. And frankly, I'm just excited to see what's possible. And that is where I see the direction of this channel, is really just actually providing the updates on my progress towards these goals. I'm not a fast runner. I am not an expert of any sort. I am a brand new baby runner. This is the first time I've ever actually written out a training program and I've followed it, and I'm really seeing the results. And that is like this self-perpetuating machine where it just continually motivates me to strive for more. So that will be the topic of another video, but for now, that has been my life these past 11 months. There's been so many competing interests, so many different things going on that filming both on this channel and my other channel just kind of got put to the wayside. So I'm back now, I am feeling good, I am feeling ready, and I can't wait to take you along on the journey. So with all that said, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye for now.